So a question I get all the time is, how can I sleep better? What are the things I can do, or what are the things that I can take? And I want to focus more on the doing. What can you do? What are the tips that if we take all these little things and we stack them up, that alone should get us sleeping well? And we shouldn't have to really be dependent on a whole bunch of supplements, or worse, sleeping pills, because the research shows that sleeping pills, if anything, maybe help people get off to sleep, but they don't do anything good for their quality of sleep. So let's run through this. Starting at the top, number one, the most important, as we've talked about, is sticking to a schedule. So when we have a schedule of sleep, our body is going to be in this rhythm of sleep, this predictable rhythm. And from there, we can release the hormones, we can balance the body's systems, we can repair and regenerate on a regular schedule where the body knows what it's supposed to be doing at what time of the day. If we're varying that time all over the place, the body doesn't know what to be doing. So 7 days per week, up at the same time, down at the same time, and trying not to vary that more than about 30 minutes at most, keeps us from really goofing up this cycle week to week. Number two, want to move. So exercise is shown to benefit sleep. Now, there's not a direct correlation, say, on the days we do exercise, but I think most of us can agree when we had a tough workout or went for a long hike, man, we slept well that night. But there is a correlation. Those that move more and exercise more sleep better. And again, a minimum of 30 minutes will hit the target for helping your body sleep better with that movement and that exertion during the day. Number three is to avoid caffeine. Caffeine later in the day, that is. So again, we talked about if you need 12 cups of coffee to get going in the morning, well, your sleep cycle is not on target. So go back to number one. But if your sleep is pretty well on target with that schedule, we want to avoid that caffeine. Afternoon, 1 p.m. at the latest is kind of the cutoff, because we know this half-life of how long that caffeine hangs around in the body can be as much as 10 hours or more, depending on how much you consumed. And that's going to affect your sleep, as you learn, because it's gonna block this chemical called adenosine, which is the sleep pressure molecule. So we don't want to have that caffeine hanging around, because that's really going to goof us up later in the day. So curb that caffeine take 1 p.m. at the latest. Number four is to avoid the booze before bedtime. Yes, a lot of people think they have a couple drinks, it helps them sleep better. Research doesn't back that. You may fall asleep faster, but a couple things happen during the sleep after we've had a lot of alcohol close to bed, is you don't sleep as deeply, or as soundly. And a lot of people, it can turn them into a mouth breather actually at night. So they have an obstructive airway, which we know is really going to disrupt their sleep too. So ideally avoid it, if you're going to have it, at least 3 hours before bedtime. And I kind of follow the rule of not really much on school nights, okay, when I want to wake up the next morning and perform at a high level. Number five, avoid the large meals before bedtime. So again, about 3 hours, your body needs time to digest that, so then it can rest and do what it's supposed to do when it's sleeping. So avoiding those huge meals really close to bed, that can be disruptive for some people's sleep. Number six, if possible, I want you to look at your medications, if you're taking medications, to see if any of them may have a side effect of potentially disrupting your sleep. So check all the possible side effects and take earlier in the day if possible. Number seven, don't nap after 3 p.m. So again, we kind of go through this lull. Some of us feel this after lunchtime. It's called postprandial, or after we eat. We kind of like tank a little bit. Some people think it's a carb coma, but no, it's kind of this ultradian rhythm. We have this circadian rhythm kind of happening through the night, and this ultradian rhythm happening during the day. We kind of have that natural dip about 8 hours or so after we got up. So if we got up at 6 o'clock, we may feel that at 2 p.m. Again, a little bit after lunch, where we feel in the afternoon we're just kind of low energy, a little bit more lethargic, want to take a nap. And taking a nap is okay. We want to keep that nap short. Again, there's a lot of debate on the power nap, about 20 minutes, versus a longer form nap, about 90 minutes. If we're working on kind of more of a biphasic sleep cycle, trying to get all of our sleep mostly at night, but maybe 90 minutes during the day. But if we're going to take a nap, the goal is to get that nap in earlier than 3 p.m. because if we take it later, we can disrupt our sleep, because we're just not going to feel as sleepy because we've unloaded some of that adenosine, so we're not going to feel as sleepy when we need to go to sleep later that night. Number 8, we got to have some kind of wind down period before bed of about an hour. So where all the devices need to shut off, because all of this light pouring into our eyeballs, like we've learned with the response we get with sunshine in the morning, it wakes our brain up, okay? And all this blue light flooding our eyeballs at night does the same. So it makes us more alert when we want to be more sedate and restful, okay? So we need to turn off all the devices minimum of an hour before bed. A couple hours would be better, but a minimum of an hour before bed. So read, listen to some music, take a bath or shower is the next thing on the list. So a hot shower or a bath can help relax the body. And when you come out of that hot shower or bath, it cools your body temperature, which is another key factor in a sleeping well, is dropping the body temperature. Dropping the environmental temperature will sleep better. So create a cave is the next point, dovetailing on that comment. It should be dark, it should be cold in your sleeping cave, okay? So that's where I use some technology to help with that. I use a cooling system on the top of my mattress, an Uller system by ChiliPad, and that helps me temperature control what I want underneath so I can control that environment better, keep it nice and cool so my body sleeps better, because the research does show we sleep better when it's cooler in our environment. We're not getting hot, throwing the covers off, pulling them back on, tossing and turning throughout the night. Get sunlight. So again, we're talking about sleep at the back end of our day, but that sunlight first thing in the morning, if we can get up and out there and get that 30 minutes of sunshine pouring in, again, that optic sensor behind the crisscross of those optic nerves, that SCN nucleus, that's going to process that light. And then it's going to start this chemical pathway in motion of triggering off the events that happen throughout the day with these fluctuations in hormones, the rise of adenosine, and later at night, when it gets duskier and the lights dim, then we're going to trigger that release of melatonin. So those things are happening to program when our body builds this pressure up to want to sleep, and a lot of it is influenced by that light. So early light in the morning, and again midday, 30 minutes in the morning, maybe 15 minutes midday, especially for those who feel groggy in the afternoons. That blast of sunshine at lunchtime should wake your body up just as well as a cup of coffee or tea if you're doing any caffeine around the lunch hour. And finally, the tip for better sleep is don't lay awake in bed. So again, if you go to bed and don't fall asleep quickly, you don't have that onset of sleep quickly, and you find yourself tossing and turning and your mind's wandering and you're staring at the walls, okay? The idea then is don't stay in bed, because it creates more anxiety about not sleeping. So get out of bed, reboot your routine. Part of that 1 hour routine that you use before bed, whether it's reading a few pages in a book, so exiting your bedroom, going to that place where you read, cycling back through some light stretching, whatever your pre-bed routine looks like, be routine about it. Try to do those same things. It's triggers, just like when we were an infant and we were cycling through these things before bed, like a bath, and then read a story, and then go to bed. We can use a lot of these things as adults still to be these triggers that help to connect our brain and our body to the activity that we're doing to get it mentally prepared to shift down into the sleep state that we want to be in. So that's about a dozen things you can do, and go through in a checklist of how are you doing these things? How can you implement these things? Because I can guarantee you that if you do even a couple of these things, it's going to help you. If you start stacking all of these, it's going to help you. And if that doesn't help get you in a better state of sleep or better quality of sleep, that's when we start talking about the supplements that can help you. Things that nutritionally can change the brain chemistry a little bit for us, help us sleep better, help us sleep deeper, so that we can be our best when we're up and at 'em the next day.